Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Nadine, and I am Chief Marketing Officer at ProtoScore. Today is our third workshop in our four-part series that we've put together with Michelle Wax of American Happiness. And just for some background, to anyone who did not attend our first two sessions, Tom and I were actually introduced to Michelle earlier this year. And during our initial conversation, we quickly realized the synergies between what Michelle had worked on and continues to work on with American Happiness and what ProtoScore really hopes to communicate around productivity and the things that can affect our daily engagement at work, like mental wellness, happiness, mindset. We talk a lot with our customers about driving productivity and engagement using data, but it's really important to do that in a positive and healthy way. So for today's session, Michelle will be talking us through generating energy to drive productivity. And with that, Michelle, I'll hand it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that warm intro, as usual. I appreciate it. Let me go ahead and share my screen again for everyone. If you weren't on previous workshops, what likely happened to your screen just now is my face got really, really small in the top right-hand corner. If you want to make it a little more engaging so it's not as much deck and it's more my face, 50-50, you can head to View Options, which is at the top of the screen, right where I'm sharing, and select the side-by-side mode. And then you'll be able to drag out the corner of my face and make it so it's a little more engaging. So as we get going here, feel free to share where you're joining from in the chat. And just make sure that you have a piece of paper or a notebook handy, because we're going to do a little bit with that later on. And then throughout the course of the workshop today, we're going to be, of course, I'm going to be sharing a whole bunch of information, but also we're going to be doing a couple breakout rooms. So feel free to, when those come around, I will prompt you guys with the question and all of that good stuff, but just make sure that you accept the invite to join that breakout room so you can connect with one another as we go along. So let's get into it. So as Nadine mentioned, my name is Michelle Wax. I'm the founder of American Happiness Project. And we really started out as filming a 50-state documentary all across the USA. So back in 2019, before the pandemic, traveled to every single state in America and really wanted to capture how everyday people are creating more joy, creating more fulfillment, creating more energy in their everyday life, regardless of external circumstances. And I'm really excited for today that we're focusing on generating energy, because we constantly survey and chat with people all across the country. And the two things I've been hearing a lot of is that people are feeling stressed, they're feeling burnt out, and they're really not having that much energy throughout the day. And so we're going to get into that a little bit deeper. So for those of you that were on previous workshops, you know that we traveled all around the country doing more informal interviews at farmers markets, bars, restaurants, hundreds and hundreds of people, want to really capture all walks of life and all job titles, backgrounds, all that good stuff to get a wide variety of perspectives. So today what we're going to do is tie in the science of energy generation and energy drain within the mind and body. A lot of our energy drain comes from what's happening in our brains, not just our bodies. And so we're going to get into that. And then we're going to pair it with ways that you can start really creating more energy in your own life. This is really customizable and going to be different for everyone. So feel free to kind of pick and choose what resonates with you the most as we go along. So as we get started here today, I would love for you guys to share in the chat. So feel free to just type in a number 1 through 10 of what your energy level is today. How are you feeling? 1 being the lowest energy, really sluggish, really down, just not feeling the best, right? Maybe pretty blah, as I like to say. Or 10 on the other end, you're feeling pretty lively, pretty excited, pretty energized. And let me take a look at some of these to see where we're at today. Oh, wow, pretty high. 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 6, 7, 7. Oh, wow, you guys are on the higher end. This is great. Maybe you'll have to teach me some things. 5, okay, 5. Amazing. Wow, everyone pretty much 5 and above. That's wonderful. So as we go along, these strategies and things that you can start incorporating. Of course, it's going to vary day to day, right? Some days we have higher energy than others, but these will help you for the days that you are feeling, you know, maybe a little bit below average. Some people naturally have a little bit more energy than others. You can start implementing and implementing. So we're going to get into, again, that simple science behind energy drain and generation, identifying your personal energy drivers and how to start incorporating that into your life. And then finally, the top strategies that we've found throughout the USA that people are, you know, really using on a daily basis to create the most energy that they want to be having, right? And that is their ideal energy level for them. So I want to take you guys back, just like we have it in previous workshops, to our primal times, because as you remember, our brains were wired a very, very long time ago, right? In our primal days, we had very different priorities than what we have today. And even though the modern world, what's happening outside of our brain is very, very different than, you know, back hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years ago, our brains are wired pretty much the exact same way as back in our primal times. And so even though, you know, we have to deal with different things out on the outside, very often what's happening within the brain, within the body, is getting triggered in similar ways to our primal times that will be draining our energy. So what happened, you know, back in our primal days is we got embedded with this fight or flight response, which you guys have likely heard of, right? Essentially, when we sense a threat in our environment, whether that be a bear about to attack us or a more, you know, modern day threat, such as a car swerving into your lane on the highway, right? We have this very primal response in which we either fight the threat, we run away, flight, and our body has this kind of visceral response to any threat in our environment. All right, so a lot of different things happen, and you guys have probably experienced this probably many times in your life, right? When you kind of have that gut reaction, or your body kind of feels accelerated, or it's kind of tingles, right, with this fight or flight response. And a lot of things are happening within the body when this is happening, right? And your body is essentially knocked out of balance from our parasympathetic nervous system on the right here, which is really naturally what our body likes to be in long term to restore itself, to rejuvenate itself, into the other side of this, which is the sympathetic nervous system, right? And this is okay in the short term to have your body in this state. But what happens is that the more threats we are perceiving in our minds, and I'll get into what some of those could be for everyone here today. But what happens is that if we're staying stuck in this sympathetic system, that's what leads to really long-term feeling that stress, right? Feeling that energy drain, constantly feeling tired no matter what you do, right? Maybe it's 11 a.m., you got a good night's sleep and you're on your second cup of coffee and you're still feeling tired, right? Your body is likely running into the sympathetic nervous system instead of the other end of the parasympathetic system, right? So all of these things are happening, really knocking your body out of balance. And so our bodies are designed to handle this fight or flight response in the short term, right? If we sensed a threat in our environment, we either ran away or we stood and fought it. That is really happening for, you know, a couple minutes max, and our body can handle that. The issue is that when we stay stuck in this state, and it's very easy to do that in today's world, and this is something we're going to get into even deeper in our next workshop on how to use stress to your advantage. But really what we want to do is start to restore balance between these two systems in order to really balance out and create more energy long term. So the really interesting thing about human beings, and the very special thing about human beings, is that this fight or flight response can get triggered by any type of perceived threat in our environment, right? So any type of thought triggered threat, such as a big presentation, right? A conversation you're anticipating to have, right? Maybe you read a stressful news article and you start thinking about the worst case scenarios, right? Any type of tension, right? Any type of perceived threats that's happening within our mind is actually draining our energy in our bodies as well, because we're having this visceral fight or flight response. So what we really want to do is we want to start to restore the balance between these two systems, and most of all, recognize when we're in this more fight or flight sympathetic nervous system response so that we can get over to the other side as quickly as possible. Because of course, you know, we can't necessarily avoid this, nor should you, right? It's within you for a very good reason. But the difference is that the people we've interviewed all across the country, right, they're able to get out of this state, this fight or flight response, this worry, this energy drain quicker than a lot of other people. All right. So to illustrate this point a little bit further, I like to give the comparison of driving in a car, right? So basically when you're stepping on the gas, right, your body is going into that fight or flight response. It's on that sympathetic nervous system. And the brake on the other side is the parasympathetic nervous system, okay, designed to slow down, to restore balance, to calm, and to really have a smooth driving experience. But what happens is that because we have all these perceived threats happening all the time, whether it be through the news, social media, your emails, right, conversations, misinterpretations of conversations, right, whatever it may be, it's basically like as your body is knocked out of balance, right, it's basically like you're flying down the highway at 90 miles per hour constantly. And so what we want to do, and I love this photo because I feel like very often this is very apparent in the current world, right? There's just so much happening. And what's happening in our mind is probably being more exhausting to what's even happening in our bodies from what we're doing day to day, right? Because a lot of us are in front of computers, sitting down, and things like that. So to start off today with our first exercise, feel free to grab your notebook, grab your piece of paper and a pen, and we're going to do a quick audit of your energy currently. So it looks like a lot of you guys were very high on the energy scale today, which is amazing. So what we're going to do is just take your piece of paper and draw a line down the center of the paper. On one side of it, write what is creating energy in my life, and the other side, what is draining energy in my life. All right, and we're going to take a couple minutes here. It's 4:14 Eastern time. So let's take about 3 minutes until either 1:17 Pacific or 4:17 Eastern, and take some time to, you know, really take stock of what's creating energy, what's draining energy in your life currently. This could be certain people, it could be activities, tasks, right? The content you're consuming, right? Social media, news, things like that. It could also be thoughts you're having. And this is one I really like to highlight because very often the thoughts we're having in our mind are very draining, right? That kind of internal dialogue, that negative self-talk happening within our minds that can kind of lead us down that more negative path. And if you remember from the Science of Happiness workshop a couple weeks ago, we discussed how that's really not your fault if you're going to that place, because your brain is wired to go there primally, to go to that more negative, complaining or stressed or worrisome place. But there is a way to get out of it. So if you weren't at that workshop, feel free to check out more information on it. And yeah, I'll give you guys a second. I'll give you guys about 2 more minutes here. So take some time and reflect on this. This is a really great exercise to do in any area of your life that perhaps you're craving more of. So you could do a happiness audit. You could do a peace audit, right? If you want to feel more calm or peaceful. And it's really great to become self-aware in these areas. All right, everyone, welcome back. And as everyone joins back in, feel free to just place yourself on mute again, so there's no feedback. And feel free to share in the chat if you'd like a couple of those things that you chatted with in your group, and everyone else will be joining in just a couple more seconds here. All right, everyone, welcome back. So feel free to just place yourselves back on mute, and feel free to also share in the chat a couple of those things that were creating energy, were draining energy. I always love seeing these because I feel like it can kind of jog our memory a little bit, or, you know, maybe raise to the surface some other things we didn't think of. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. We'll keep going. All right. All right, so getting into generating energy, I love this quote from Albert Einstein. You've likely heard it before, right? Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another, right? We're constantly converting energy, our bodies, our minds, the universe, the world, right? All this good stuff. Another quote that I love is by Brendan Bouchard, who says that the power plant does not have the energy, it generates it, right? So you don't necessarily have a certain set amount of energy. You can always generate more and really optimize the energy you currently have to transition into more and to really create the most that you want to be having. So because our bodies are constantly converting energy, right, there's really 4 main areas that you can focus on here: sleep, food and drink, body and movement, and the daily activities that you're doing or participating in. So we'll start off with sleep. And as you continue to add in, what's draining your energy, what's creating it currently, I want to talk a little bit about snooze. And feel free to type in the chat if you snoozed this morning when your alarm went off, and take a second there to toggle it. I personally was able to wake up on the first try this morning after my alarm went off. But I would love to hear if you guys regularly snooze, if you snooze this morning. So what happens when we're in snooze, or we tap the snooze button on our alarm, is that your body gets jolted out of its natural wake up cycle. And so really what happens within the body is that as you begin to wake up, right, a couple hours before, your body is preparing yourself to do that in a very natural way. Now, if you press snooze, you head back into sleep for 9 minutes for the iPhone or whatever else you're using, right? What happens is you go back into sleep and your body gets jolted out of sleep much quicker than it's naturally really designed to do. And so what happens is that often when people think they're getting more sleep, they're going to be more rested by tapping the snooze button. You're actually jolting your body into what's called sleep inertia. And this is that state of grogginess, of drowsiness that you can have when perhaps you're snoozing or you drift back asleep and you jolt back awake without going through a natural cycle, right? And so this can be when, it's 10 a.m. and you have had your coffee already, but you're still just feeling exhausted. It can last up to 4 hours after you wake up. A really great way to jolt yourself out of this is by anything cold. So taking a cold shower, splashing your face with cold water. If it's cold in your area of the world, right, getting out into the cold, jolting your body out of it. But it's better not to snooze and really just set your alarm for the time that you're actually planning to get up. The second component of sleep and energy generation and drain is blue light, right? So this delays your internal clock. This suppresses the release of melatonin, and it really makes it more difficult to fall and stay asleep. This is emitted by anything like your cell phone, right? The TV, your iPad, right? Anything that's electronic and emitting that blue light. And this is really, as you wake up, if you wake up, in the middle of the night, try not to look at your phone as much as possible. I was chatting with my friend the other day who she's just been really stressed, and she wakes up in the middle of the night and she starts scrolling through Instagram, and then she can't fall back asleep. And it's this whole kind of pattern and cycle to it. So as much as you can, if you wake up in the middle of the night, try not to look at your phone or any other TV or anything like that. It's also better not to watch TV or look at your phone right before bed as well. So really limiting how much time you have while you're looking at that when you're about to fall asleep. And then the third component to sleep is making sure that you're really having a sleep routine as much as possible. And there's this really interesting study done, right, by Brigham and Women's that says that, going to sleep and waking up at approximately the same time is just as important or nearly important as the numbers of hours that one sleeps. So as much as you can, keep with a regular sleep schedule, even on the weekends, right? Roughly, you're going to bed the same time, you're waking up the same time. So for sleep, don't snooze, right? Get up at that first alarm or just set it a little bit later for when you know you're going to get up. Avoid screens 1 hour before bed, at least if you're able to, even if you can only do 30 minutes, but give yourself, that little bit of buffer, and then create that sleep routine as best as you can. Food and drink is the second component of this, and digestion really takes up a lot of energy. So something to be really aware of if you are feeling sluggish or low energy is the food and the drinks that you are consuming throughout the course of the day, right? So digestion takes up a lot of energy, and things like alcohol, things like processed foods or carbs or things like burgers, right? Any of those more heavy foods, proteins, they're going to use more energy to digest. And that's why if you have a large lunch in the middle of the day, you often feel pretty tired mid-afternoon. So start looking at ingredients labels as well, because I was actually in the food industry. I owned 2 companies in the food industry before this. And a lot of products that are marketed or advertised as healthy or good for you, if you look at the ingredient label, there's actually a lot of processed things in there or additives as well. So start looking at ingredient labels for what you are purchasing or buying or consuming to see, you know, are these whole unprocessed foods, or do they have added things that perhaps aren't on the front side of the package? The regulations for the front side of the package, where you see kind of all the fun marketing and branding, is not nearly as regulated as the back, right? Where that ingredients list is and all the kind of measurements and things like that. So just take a look on the back. If, you know, maybe you have been feeling sluggish or anything like that, look at the foods you're eating. The second component of this is, of course, liquids, specifically water, right? Very good to stay hydrated, because when your body is short on fluids, the first sign is really that feeling of fatigue. So if you're able to, you know, drink as much as water as you can. It's been recommended to drink about half of your body weight in water each day. So I keep one of these big Yetis pretty much near me at all times to make it easy to drink. And so just, you know, make it as easy for your body and your brain to remember as possible to include that. The third component, of course, is body and movement. So this was a reoccurring theme in all of our interviews and beyond, is that people that are having energy, they're moving in some way, not just at the start of the day or at the end of the day, but throughout the day as well. And it doesn't have to be anything too crazy, right? Because everyone is busy and has a lot of things going on. But just getting up throughout the course of the day, going for a brief walk outside if you're able to, right? Doing some jumping jacks, doing some stretches, whatever will be beneficial to you or enjoyable to you as well. Posture is very important as well. I know specifically working from home, some people are working on their couches or their beds, and just become aware of, you know, how are you when you're feeling sluggish, right? Are you kind of slumped over on the couch or on your bed and trying to do some work? Ideally have a location where you can have good posture. You can be sitting upright as you go about the day. The fourth component of this is daily activities, right? So we all really have things that energize us. It could be getting out into nature. It could be cooking. It could be watching some funny videos. It could be FaceTiming with people that you care about, right? There's all these different activities. And so really you want to be aware, as we just did through the first exercise, of what's really bringing in that energy to you. So we're going to go back to the energy audit. And for the second breakout room, what I would love for you guys to do is to really share how you can start to incorporate more of what's creating energy in your own life, and how can you limit or shift what's draining energy. A lot of the times we can't completely eliminate what's draining our energy, although perhaps we can if it's social media or something like that. But you can start to limit time or interaction with it. And so I'm going to break you guys off again for a couple minutes here, and we will share how you can start to incorporate more of that energy and limit time or interaction with what's draining it. Feel free to share in the chat what you're going to do to start incorporating more of the things that are bringing you energy and limit the things that are draining it. A really common one I've been hearing recently for draining energy is social media and the news. And so limiting your time and interaction. A good way to do this is deleting it off of your apps on your phone. A bunch of people I've been talking with recently have been doing that, and it really makes a big difference. So highly recommend deleting any apps that really aren't bringing that energy or even joy to you if you're able to. All right. So as everyone joins back in, feel free to just place yourself on mute, and we will keep going along here. Go ahead and share my screen. I also want to address a couple questions here. So Sharon had the question. She said that she uses, or she watches TV at night to wind down. What do you recommend instead? So watching TV is, of course, great to unwind. I would just limit it right before bed. So what you could do instead is you could read a book, right? You could meditate. You could take some time to reflect on the day, right? Maybe just kind of take in your environment. That's something I've been doing. I was on a podcast the other day and just kind of taking in the moment and doing nothing can be really powerful to unwind and to reflect on the day. All right, so let's see. Canceled all social media 2 months ago, except LinkedIn. That's impressive. That's amazing. All right, let's keep going. Chris said, need you to come talk to my wife about her Instagram problem. I'm happy to, Chris. All right, let's keep going. All right, so now we're going to get a little deeper into the energy drivers. And this is really powerful for work, but also for personal life as well. So really what we want to start doing is start tracking when you feel energized and when you don't, because everyone's going to be different in the times of day, right? The things they're doing, what's bringing energy or not. And so a really good way to start tracking this is through setting an alarm on your phone, right? Just having a brief check-in every 2 to 3 hours on your energy levels, right? And so answering a couple different questions. We have a worksheet that has this all written down, so it's easy to just jot down. But basically you want to write down, what time is it? What am I doing? How am I sitting, right? Where am I? What is my energy level? What was my last meal? And the last person I interact with. So this will maybe take you, 20 seconds to fill out. It's pretty quick. It's just taking that self-awareness and consistency to do it. So once you do this for a couple days, and you can, easily put alarms on your phone or even just a reminder in your calendar to track this. What you're going to do once you've done this for a couple days, ideally 3 days, you could do it for longer as well, is you're going to go through those checkpoints, right, in your days and circle the 5 moments where you had higher energy than the rest, right? So what did those higher energy moments have in common? Were they the time of day? Were they the environment you were in, right? The activity you're doing, your posture, previous meal and snack? Or your last interaction, right? Who was it with? Was it someone who was energizing and bringing that into your life? Or maybe it was a bit draining. And then you're going to go through and do the exact opposite, right? So once you've tracked this, circle those 5 moments where you had lower energy than the rest. And what did those have in common, right? So just circle those. Themes are going to develop and you're going to be able to see this. And so what you're going to learn is the things, the times of day, the people, right, that are really boosting your energy and also what is not really contributing to it. Now, the powerful thing here is that to really start incorporating your energy drivers, whether it be the time of day, whether it be the people you're interacting with, the activities you're doing, maybe the meals you're eating, into really to align with your day and make you as productive and effective as possible, right? So for me personally, I work best in the morning, right? I am most efficient in the morning. And so anything I need to do that requires a lot of focus, right? Maybe a lot of, whether it's creating videos or writing or whatever I need to be doing, I work best creatively in the morning. And so I will always schedule that in the early morning, right? And so making sure that you're aware of this and can coordinate your schedule as much as possible. Of course, you can't always control when your meetings are and things like that, but as much as you can possibly do it. And maybe even incorporate, if you're scheduling meetings out with someone on your team or someone in your life, right? And you need some energy and they generally bring in that energy to you, align that with your schedule as much as you can. So that maybe if you are having a kind of an afternoon where you're feeling lower energy, right? You can bring that in. So really good to become aware of this and start implementing it into your life and start really shifting. All right, now we're going to get into energy generator tips. And these are really the things that we found throughout our documentary filming and continue to find throughout the interviews that are really, really effective all across the country. So the first piece of this is eliminating decision making. We have up to 35,000 decisions that are happening in our mind every single day, right? So a lot is going on. And what happens is the more and more decisions your brain makes, the later in the day that it goes, it becomes more and more exhausted. And so really the more choices that you make throughout the day, the harder it becomes for your brain. So this is why it's good to schedule out things as much as you can to make it easy on your brain to make decisions as much as you possibly can. Because the later in the day that it gets, your brain isn't really as sharp or as clear as it was at the start of the day. So this is, I like to give the example of, it's maybe 7 p.m., 8 p.m., and you've just had a long day, a lot's been going on, and you end up eating something or drinking or whatever it may be that wasn't really in the plan, right? Because it's just easier to do. But if you had perhaps something prepped in your fridge or something else that was on the way that you knew was going to be healthy and nourishing, it would have been a lot easier for your brain to just grab that instead. The second component is to start your day off proactively. So really want to make it easy for your brain to make these good decisions all throughout the course of the day. Again, these are going to be different for everyone, what decisions you're making and what you're doing day to day, but make it as easy as possible on your brain for it to accomplish them. So what you can do is you can create a list of goals the night before. This is actually a really great way to close out the workday. And I've been hearing a lot that people are struggling with transitioning from work to more life and relaxation mode. So creating a list of the top 3 things you need to get done the next day at work is a really good way to close out the day. Another thing you can do is to write down how you were productive in that day. It's a nice kind of close to the workday and a transition into home life or relaxation or just life. Another area you can do this in is to plan out your meals, your workouts, right? Anything else that you want to get done and make it, again, easy on the brain, proactive. Third is the morning questions. We went over this in a couple other workshops, but it's a really great way to, instead of waking up in the morning and looking at your phone right away, kind of giving away your energy to the world, making sure you start your morning proactively. This was a really, really big theme all across the country. And so you can ask yourself these 3 questions. It takes just a minute of your time. What am I looking forward to today, right? What is potential to stress me out or worry me? And how do I choose to respond? Stressful things are going to come up, right? Worrisome things are going to come up, but how do I choose to respond? This allows you to take back control of that situation. And number 3, how do I want to feel at the end of today? And what do I need to do or not do to make that a reality? So really simple, really great way to start off the day proactively. Only takes a minute. You can even do it while you're brushing your teeth. Super simple. Another area is to really set your intention for the day. And so the 1-word method is a great way to do this. All it is choosing a word that you're going to channel that day. All right. So you're going to channel this word, and anytime that you're feeling maybe frustrated or stressed or whatever emotion it is that's kind of just not feeling the best, we're going to bring ourselves back to this 1-word intention, right? So it can be anything at all. A couple of common ones are productive, joyful, calm, peaceful, whatever it is. So all you can ask yourself at the end of the day is, was I blank today? All right. Were you energizing, positive, understanding, empathetic? All these different words. There's obviously a million that you can choose from. So what we're going to do is break off for the final group exercise today and share what's your 1 word for today, or maybe what's your 1 word for the week, right? And why is that important to you? Why is it important for you to channel that? How are you going to be able to do it? So I'll break you guys off one last time here. Feel free to just place yourself back on mute so there's no feedback, and would love to see what everyone's 1 word is. So feel free to type that in the chat, share that with everyone who wasn't in your group, and we will keep going. Another great activity or exercise to do is what I like to call words to live by list. So this is kind of an expansion of 1 word. I have my list here. You can also just write it down on a piece of paper, but just creating a list of the words that you want to be experiencing, right? The positive emotions, and taking stock and really aligning with, are you aligning with that each and every day? Are you not? What can you do differently? So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And everyone feel free to share your 1 word in the chat as we keep going here. All right. So the final piece is really just making a choice to generate energy throughout the day and to actually implement the strategies and things that you became self-aware of or that you're, going to be implementing into your life, making the choice to actually do it, to stay consistent with it, right? No one can really force you to do this except for yourself. And so making it easy, scheduling it out in your calendar, putting it in your phone as an alarm, making that choice to generate energy. So ideally every 1 to 2 hours, you're going to close your eyes and breathe for 60 seconds to reset. This is something we're going to get deeper into in the next workshop, using stress to your advantage. But really, breath work and breathing has an extreme power within the body and the mind and just really everything to create more energy, to really transform stress. And it's really, really powerful to do. It also gives you a nice break from the computer that you're likely looking at for many, many hours. So close your eyes, breathe, and reset. Make sure you're drinking that water, right? Make sure you're coming back to that intention that you're setting, whatever your one word is for the day, reflecting on, am I feeling this right now? Am I embodying this or am I not? And how can I realign with it throughout the course of the day? And then finally, making sure that you're incorporating brief physical movement throughout the course of the day, as well as in addition to if you do normal exercise as well. So it has the power to jumpstart, perhaps a meeting or a time of day that is lower on your energy driver list once you go through that exercise. So again, going back to that sleep, food and drink, body movement, daily activities, making sure that you're just becoming aware of this and tweaking your schedule and your day-to-day life to align with what's going to be best for you. So this is what we talked about today. Quick recap, right? Getting into that signs, that fight or flight response, those perceived threats in the mind are likely draining a lot of your energy, often more than a lot of people realize. Identifying those personal energy drivers, getting self-aware, right? Making sure implementing that into your life. And we'll also send along the energy driver worksheets. You can easily print that out or type it in on your computer. You can also, of course, just use a notebook, go old school with it. And then, of course, those top strategies, making sure you're eliminating decision-making, making sure you're starting the day off proactively, and also making sure that you're making that choice to, first of all, implement all the things from today, right? Or things that resonated with you. And really making sure that you're generating energy in the ways that it's most valuable. So I will go ahead. Let's see what time it is here. We have a couple minutes for questions. If anyone has any, I'll go ahead and stop my share. And I will read off in the meantime, as people think about questions, the one word. So we got phenomenal from Libby, gratitude, laughing. Oh, I love that one. I haven't heard that one, Tom. Patience, inquisitive, organized, and inspiration. Oh, Chris, are you saying I look organized or someone else does? Thank you, if it's me. Wonderful. Well, if anyone has any other questions, of course, I'll type in my email here. Feel free to reach out, anytime. Some things, they come up afterwards. But otherwise, hope to see you at the next workshop.